You're listening to Funny Peculiar with Jeff Downs.
Welcome to another episode of Funny Peculiar. Thanks for downloading, thanks for sharing, as always. This week, I've got a great guest, and it's Alice Ashurst, better known as Lilly Von Ice, who is a burlesque performer, but she does a multitude of other talents. So she's a pole dancer, she is a fire performer, and I've spoken to a lot of burlesque dancers who also do various sort of circus skills. So anyway, we go into all of that. But to track down Alice, or Lilly Von Ice, she's on Instagram, and you can follow her, and that's Alice_Ashurst, ASHURST. And that's on Twitter as well, Alice_Ashurst. And on Facebook, you can find her there just with Alice Ashurst. But she's known as a stage name as Lilly Von Ice, and we find out where that comes from as too. So, without further ado, my very special guest this week, the wonderful Lilly Von Ice. So, welcome to another episode of Funny Peculiar, and this week I have the wonderful Lilly Von Ice. Hello, Lilly.
Hi.
And you're a burlesque performer. We'll go into all the other things you do, because you do a massive amounts. And aerial as well, which is a big thing. So, and I saw a clip of you recently on Facebook where you're in a restaurant on a hoop, doing stunts and all your moves and tricks in front of diners. How was that?
It was ace, yeah. There's even a little clip of me somewhere where I'm hanging off from the hoop and I'm pouring champagne.
Right.
So just hanging on by my legs and just crawling forwards like, hey there, how you going? Pouring some champagne.
So that hands-on sometimes.
Oh, yes.
Even so that must be quite... Is that nerve-wracking in a sort of enclosed environment like that?
It was a little bit at first, but to be honest, it's quite fun. Like, you're up quite close to people, and sometimes you have a little natter and they're a bit more gobsmacked that you're upside down, and you're just like, hey, how's it going? Enjoying yourself? Having a good time?
And is that also pressure to get it right, because you think, well, if I slip, one thing, I could go crash into the floor?
Yeah. It can do. It can be a bit nerve-wracking. At the beginning, like when I first ever did these, then it was like, oh my God, but I don't know, adrenaline kicks in, I trust my instincts, I know exactly what I'm doing, like, it's a move that I'm 100% secure in, so I know what I'm doing, and I'm just a bit distracted by my surroundings, to be honest. I'm just like, oh, yeah, hey.
Well, you were fantastic when I saw you at Sherry Mon Baby.
Oh, thank you.
When she did a burlesque night, and you did a couple of characters that night.
I did.
Burlesque. So now we'll talk about your burlesque, but you do a lot of other things as well. You're an instructor, you teach burlesque as well.
Do.
You do a lot of aerial stuff, which amongst the burlesque world I've not seen much there, so we'll talk about that. So that's a really interesting part. You teach, do a little bit of costume design. We get into vegan as well, because that's very popular. But you have been for a long time.
I have been, yeah.
So that's interesting. And you're secretly a bunny.
I am.
We'll talk about that later as well. So, and again, anybody wants to check Lilly out, she's on Instagram, and I'll give all the information in the iTunes blog. But you can follow on Instagram while we're chatting. You can see all wonderful pictures. So it's Alice_Ashurst, isn't it? But Lilly Von Ice comes up as well, doesn't it? So you can see all the wonderful pictures. So how did you first get into burlesque? Where was your journey into this performance?
So my journey actually started off with pole. I started off doing pole, ventured into aerial.
And when you say pole, so that's pole dancing, as in the traditional pole, ceiling to floor, and that can be commonly a polar-size exercise as well.
Definitely. Well, I actually went in straight away being like, right, fitness, this is a new sport for me, a new hobby. I'd lost, because it keeps going further back and the more you try it, but I used to do ice skating.
Oh, right,
well.
now.
Even more.
So when did you start ice skating then?
My family have all been ice skating.
Oh, really? Oh,
so
right.
There's actually a picture of my mum on the ice when she's pregnant with me. So
no way.
The running joke is I've been skating before I was even born.
So, because they've just recently had a film out about Tanya Harding. Did
Yes.
you see that? Which was,
Oh my god, yes.
brilliant, wasn't it?
It was.
Very well done.
Well, I grew up knowing about this story, so
Right.
as soon as I found out that the film was coming out, I was like, oh,
So
exciting.
this was just for people that haven't seen the film. So this was an incident back in the sort of mid-90s, and it was
Yeah.
between two American skaters. You tell the story, go on.
So it's about two. I won't give too much away to anyone that wants to watch the film, but about two figure skaters, and there was a bit of rivalry between the two, and basically one of the performers had her legs broken
Right.
by someone, but we're not entirely sure if it's by the other competitor,
Yeah.
because we're both like head up for winning, or if it was from an ex-boyfriend, or there was a hitman or something. We don't know, but this person did get blamed for it, and they were both disqualified for this. So it's definitely a good film to check
It's a
out,
great film,
because
isn't it?
you don't really know where to go with
Yeah.
this, and you're like, oh, hang on, is it this, or maybe. I mean, it's an awful tragic story regardless.
But
I mean,
it's filled with drama,
it
and the
is
acting's
so
brilliant.
good.
And so you started at a very, very young age
I did.
then, ice skating. So how old were you when you started ice skating?
So when I was basically like 3, I was given those little toboggan skates, which is basically like two-bladed
Yeah.
strap-on things that you attach to your little booties.
Right, and it was literally... And your mum was a skater as well.
Yeah.
Was your dad a skater?
My dad's just supportive of
He's
it.
a skater.
He's happy to watch and take pictures. But my brothers did hockey, and
Right.
my sister and me did figure skating with my mum.
Right.
I did my first competition when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
And then I kept competing, took part in some shows. I had to stop though when school got a little bit much, because I literally used to wake up at 5 in the morning. I'd
Yeah.
go all the way to Altrincham to train, and then go straight back and be ready for school for
Yeah.
9 a.m.
Oh, right. So it's good to say that. I was going to say you didn't have to stop because some jealous other skater tried to kneecap
no one
you.
tried to break my knees.
Because it is a commitment, that sort of...
Oh, it's a serious commitment. I mean, like, this was like my dream. Like,
Yeah.
I loved it so much. But I had to... it was getting too much, and I knew that school was important. It wasn't a case of anything like my parents were like, come on, you need a serious job or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
just more for me, it was getting a little bit too much, so I had to dial it back a bit.
Because by that time, if you'd started at 3 or 4, you'd been skating 10 years then.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
It is a long time. I mean, it was a hard sport, because you don't really have padding.
Right.
When you fall, it's a horrible fall. Like,
Yeah.
I've had a tiny, what do you call it, a hairline fracture in my
Right.
wrist from falling over. Luckily, that's like the worst injury I've ever had.
But the injuries and the
It's
bumps,
hard.
the bruises...
It sounds really daft now, but like, it is terrifying, because
Yeah.
when you fall, I mean, you've got blades on your feet, it's solid ice.
It's quite a
Yeah.
hard surface. You're
When
hitting-
I went into pole, like, I felt spoiled, because it's like I could have a crash mat on the floor. It's like, oh my god, this is amazing.
I thought you'd be pulling crash mats away, saying, "Look, I've had it hard. You can have." We're just having base concrete. So of course,
Yeah.
So you two did the skating for. And who were your sort of heroes, heroines of skating? Who did you look up to? Who were the...
I looked up a lot to Torval and Dean,
Hmm.
but they weren't really the same thing as me, because they did more partner skating.
Right, you were
whereas-
single.
Yeah,
figure
I was
skater.
doing a lot of like the jumps and the
Sure.
spins and tricks. So my idols were kind of more local ones,
Sure.
really. I didn't particularly have too much of like the official
Yeah.
figure skater. So it was more of like trying to bond friendships with people you were. Like, to be honest, my instructor, Donna McCarthy,
Right. Okay.
she was probably my biggest idol.
Okay. Cool.
Because she used to perform in Hot Ice and Holiday on Ice.
Ah, right,
She did
okay.
some really amazing shows. Do check them out in Blackpool, they're amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was probably my biggest idol.
And I do love the costumes as well.
Oh, aren't they gorgeous?
The absolutely the sequins, and the hair's got to be right,
Yeah.
isn't it? And that's all got to be bolted down almost. I take it
Yeah.
you can't have...
Do you know what? When I trained, I used to love having my hair down
Right.
and just skating
Yeah.
and feeling that breeze. Like, there's nothing more like liberating than that.
Because it's you want, and all that, and the different. Every time Olympics comes around, that tends to be when figure skating comes on the television.
Definitely.
But I love the terms. Is it the triple salchow?
Yeah.
And all this. So what's the hardest one? Because I think they picked it up in the film. There's like a treble spin in the air. What's that called? And
To be honest, it's actually bordering on to quadruples now.
Right.
Male figure skaters have have been able to do quadruple jumps, but females, I think there's a couple now that can do the quadruples. I think the biggest one is a quadruple axel.
Right.
So basically, a lot of jumps are only half a rotation round.
Okay.
Then you border on to more ones that are a full rotation. An axel is 1.5 rotations in the air. Wow. I managed to get my axel, and that was probably the hardest jump I could do.
Right. Okay.
And I was almost had my double jump.
Yeah.
But they take a long time. Like, it's dedication to get these jumps.
And that's a lot about the approach, the build, and the trait, and what's the timing like? So you've got to obviously then propel yourself up to then flick yourself round, and then you've got to land on skates. Yeah. Which is so difficult.
It is. It's all... Timing is important, but it's more about you'll find a bite point when you really kind of glide and you proper sink into the prep, and then you really pull yourself in, and when fear kicks in, your limbs just jump out and it's like, damn it. But you have to like really pull yourself in to get as much rotation as you can before you land.
And what was it like when you landed your first axel?
Oh my god, it was like major high. It is a milestone when it's that one move that you've been working your arse off on, not even for like a month or two. We're talking a couple of years of constant work, and to get it was amazing.
Yeah, and then at the back there's I suppose you want to put it on tape or whatever, but you're practicing, so it's like, I did it, and it's like, your coach saw you do it and you can validate.
Do you know what, it wasn't even my coach was watching.
Oh really?
It's like, damn it.
Wow, so that was okay. So you then progressed, so we get to pole. So you started to get into pole.
I did. I've been a couple of years without having a sport at this point because A-levels took charge, and I had to just go a little bit of time without having something else to think about. Uni just didn't feel like it was for me, so I was a little bit lost at this point. I had a job and I was just going through life, and I was like, I need something. I need that kind of liberating therapy almost. Because I love dancing. Dancing is a therapy to me. Doesn't matter if I'm happy, I'm sad, depressed, angry. Dance is a therapy regardless, to let it out. And
in ice skating there's a lot of, I mean, it's always very dance based as well, isn't it? So that
just gliding and moving on the ice was liberating enough, and you felt free. There was nothing holding you back. You were just going for it. It was amazing. And I needed something, and I was just on Facebook, and it comes up with things like what your friends have liked.
Right.
And it popped up with this thing about Polefire being this sort of metal scene, alternative scene, pole dancing place. It was used to be at the basement of GC, Grand Central Pub in Manchester.
Right, okay.
And something clicked, and I was like, yes, this is for me. This is for me. I finally plucked up the courage and just went for it. And I never looked back.
And it was just, that was the moment.
That was
like,
it.
This is for me.
Yes. And it was so, like, I started doing when I went to my first class, I was trying out some moves, and I could just get a few, even like the 2 moves I could get that were just the most basic moves ever, like standing with one leg on the pole or something. And I was like, I'm doing pole.
Because again, it's quite a physical pursuit, because you've got to hold your body weight in some. And for people that don't know, again, so it's just basically a very sort of 2-3 inch thick pole that's on floor to ceiling, bolted on quite well, and it's different positions that you then adopt and hold. Is that more or less? I'm describing it right?
Yeah. Pole is basically, you work every inch of every muscle in your body is used in pole. Skating does as well, but it was very leg based.
Sure.
Your arms didn't do too much really. So when I went in, I hadn't done sports in a while, and I had proper noodle arms. Like, if the wind blew, they'd be there blowing in the wind. Leg muscles, now I had those.
You had those.
So getting and sitting and doing a pole sit, so like pole in between your legs, just sat on the pole basically. Yeah, I could do that, and I was like, oh, I can do a move. I was so used to, like, literally ice skating itself takes you a good couple of weeks just to be able to move on the ice. It's learning to walk all over again. So to be able to go to my first class and just do a single move was incredible.
Yeah.
I was so hooked. I was immediately felt welcomed by everybody that was there. Like, I didn't know a single person there, but they made me feel so unbelievably welcomed. kept going, and about 2 years later, I was asked to be an instructor.
Oh,
and
wow.
I still work there now. Polefire is still part of, it's inside Siren Asylum gym. It's just grown over the years.
So this is because I was, again, all the different things that you do. So it's like the list of, because it was Instructor, and now I was looking at Siren Asylum. So just to explain, so that's something you've developed with another business partner, is that right? Or a partner in Pole?
So, Siren Asylum is actually run by Sarah Fenney and Kat Loveday, and I just sort of work with them alongside, supporting them as much as they can, because they are like, they're my best friends, but they're also my idols. I look up to them so much. They are just incredible human beings.
And their thing is pole, basically.
And actually, Kat Loveday, she's my performance partner as well. Together, even more companies. We together own Siren Entertainment.
Right, okay.
Which is where all the entertainment base comes into it. But she's like me, she does so many different things.
And when you say performance partner, so do you perform alongside her in a double act?
We have done double stuff.
Okay.
We've done a little bit.
How does that look?
So we've done a bit of double hoop stuff together. Okay. We've done a lot of acro yoga together. But to be honest, it's more of the side of that we're just a team.
Sure. Okay.
We'll do like an act, and then she'll do an act, and then I'll do an act, sort of thing. Or if I find a gig, I'm usually like, Kat's coming with me.
Right, okay. No, cool.
We just support each other and help each other out a lot of the time.
And then this was a kind of gateway door through to burlesque then for you. So how did pole dancing go into burlesque then? When did that sort of start?
Burlesque has always been something I've admired, even from like a young age. Like way too young probably. But I used to look up and watch like Lilly Von Ice and everyone else's normal idols, and just be in absolute awe of them, and just think like how amazing it would be to be one of these people one day. Not necessarily thinking it would be possible, just thinking like, oh my god, to be one of these people would be incredible. And it was just sort of one day I was like, do you know what, I really want to learn burlesque. I mean, I decided to do pole and started that, decided to do aerial and did that. Why not burlesque? There are classes.
And it's just
let's go for it.
Wow. And
I went to Body Bar that's in Northern Quarter.
Okay.
And I attended a couple of courses there, and I was like, I can get into this. I love this. This is incredible. And then just started going off on my own journey with it. And I started to see that so many, because I had it in my head that burlesque was very vintage style. It was a very particular route, that it was showgirl, vintage, enthusiastic people, which was amazing, but it wasn't quite me. Like, I wasn't love the vintage style, but it's not for me. I'm not that person that would go down that kind of route necessarily. And when I started working at Menagerie, I became really good friends with Cherie Baby.
Right, yeah.
And since then she's become my pole mama.
Yes.
Taken me under her wing, and I can't thank her enough.
That's, well, just to let people know, so it's Cherie Baby. Now, I've interviewed her, so she's going to come up soon in Funny Peculiar. It'll be great. So, and she was fascinating and wonderful to talk to. So she kind of led your sort of hand into, and I think a lot of burlesque, it's sort of a lot of camaraderie, and people sort of like, well, come with me and I'll show you. Yeah. And so that was how you gained your sort of burlesque wings in a way. Is that right?
Definitely. She was just sort of led me in the right direction, and she was very much of a, no, do whatever you want, because Cherie's got her own style. There's something, you watch her and you know it's her. She's got her own style that just gleams. And then I started to meet new people like Titalina. Cece Sinclair, oh my gosh, their styles are incredible, and you can see it's them, like they're really gleaming and being themselves. They're not trying to be anyone else. They are them.
And when we say styles, so they'll have so is it, that'll be down to the sort of costume they wear, the moves they make? Is that,
I think it's more like you've almost saw a little bit into their creative mind. It's just their inner personas coming out and showing, as opposed to, I saw this thing and I wanted to try it.
And a bit like ice skating, again, music's a big part of burlesque, because the choice of track. But before we talk about that, Lilly Von Ice. Now, I love, and again, with a lot of drag performers, lots of burlesque, and whoever, the stage name's everything. So where does Lilly Von Ice come from?
So, the Lily bit is actually kind of personal to me. So when I was younger and I was really kind of struggling to find myself, what really helped was trying to think of myself being a different person. I gave myself a different persona. So if I was ever put into a tricky situation, it was like, right, Alice might not be able to do this, but Lily can do this.
Okay.
And I went through a lot of like suffering from anxiety. I suffered from depression quite a bit when I was a young teenager, and it's a tough time being a teenager regardless.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I decided that this was how I was going to cope with this, was by being another person. I did drama when I was in GCSE, and I found that really helped, just being this different person all of a sudden. And I actually have a little Lily tattooed on.
Right, yes, I can see that.
So this was just more of a reminder to myself that if I can't do this, Lily can do this.
Yeah.
And then I started getting into modelling, and I really wanted to get into modelling, and I was going down a route that I was really struggling to find myself. I was starting to go down a bit of a tricky situation of starting to compare myself, and I was being a bit more like, oh, I'm not skinny enough, or I'm not this, I'm not that. But I was trying to remind myself, like, no, you're you, and you don't need this. You can be you, and it's like, bring that out to people. So Lily has always been my persona, my me. Von Ice. Von, because it's a fantastic name. Ice, because I am pale as a ghost and have white hair.
Well, then fine. And again, I think that's like Dita Von Tease. There's that aspect of burlesque names, isn't it? So,
definitely.
And do you remember your first burlesque performance when it was like, this is it, Lilly Von Ice, she's on the poster? What was that like?
So working at a studio, we actually do our own showcases. We do about 2 of them a year. We do a summer one and we do a winter one near Christmas time. So it gets, for our students, they get the chance to just go up and show off what they've learned and get that like experience and that buzz of performing. Like, we want to give them this opportunity. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my burlesque performance in front of these guys. And it was 2 people I loved and adored. There was not a safer place to do this.
But still, it was your first time.
It was my first, and I mean, getting your kit off with all your fellow best mates. Who doesn't love it?
And how many people were watching?
Probably about a good 40 people.
Really? So that's quite. And so you've got the music prepared, the costume.
Yeah.
So you've got a couple of. I saw you do like an Alice in Wonderland thing. So what was at the time? What was your costume you did for the first one?
My first one was a red satin corset that I actually had for quite a while.
Okay.
I just kind of diamanted it up. I had a frilly black knickers and a sequin black bra. So it was very kind of black and red colours. I had 2 mini little black feather fans. Yeah. And I did it to a metal song. I did it to In This Moment, Dirty Pretty.
Right, okay, right. So that's cool. So again, that's interesting, because a lot of burlesque will go for sort of more traditional 50s or 60s songs, but you went for a heavy metal.
Yeah.
What was the track again? Just for people to check it out, they're called Dirty Pretty, are they?
They're called In This Moment.
In This Moment.
But the song was called Dirty Pretty.
Right, okay,
yeah.
Cool. And so that was also. So who announced you on?
It was our compare of the day, which was Tasha. It was just one of our girls. That was our.
And what was that? What did you feel? What was that moment when you heard your name announced and that was it?
Nerve-wracking, actually, because it was like, oh, they don't know me as this. This is weird. Like, I was a bit scared. I was like, oh god, they must I hope they don't think I'm being a bit pretentious. Like, oh, check me out. But no, they were so supportive. And then as soon as it was out there, it was like, oh, this is real. Wow. But then after that one, my second one, because it was my first real one in front of people that weren't just my friends, it was a gig that Shareed got me alongside her with oh god, this is going to bug me now what it was for. It was a woman called Zoe, a lovely, lovely woman. She had a private event. Okay. And it was very kind of burlesque themed.
Sure. So perfect for this. Okay.
So I didn't know anyone that was watching. Yeah. There were strangers, but there weren't people I knew. So it actually helped a little bit.
Is there a bit of liberty there? Yeah. Because you don't know anybody.
Exactly.
There.
It was like, right, now's my time to make that first impression and be this person. And it was a good tester for them to be like, right, Lilly Von Ice, and hear that name. And it was like, oh, I'm real now.
And that was it. She was born.
And she was born.
Fantastic. So, and with a lot of the clips I've seen, and you do a lot of aerial work as well. So now this is another, and again, there seems to be, again with the burlesque, a lot of, because that's movement, everything seems to reach back to dance and skating, which is really interesting.
Yes.
Although aerial, there's no aerial skating performance, Olympic sport yet, but
although Cirque du Soleil are doing it.
Oh, do they do?
Yes,
oh, right,
Cirque du Soleil Crystal.
Oh, right.
It is a lot of aerial on ice, which is just mind-blowing.
So how do they do it? So, because I was just talking to some mates last night, because we're going to do our own sketch called Cirque du Salford.
Nice.
Which is the basically shit version of Cirque du Soleil, where it's just like, I can't do that. We've pulled a muscle and just. But they're coming to Manchester soon, aren't they? There's a massive. They're huge.
I can't wait.
So they do a combination of on ice with aerial acrobatics.
Yes.
So how did you get into the aerial arts then?
So because Polefire had taken a bit of a turn, I think Kat and Sarah had kind of done a little bit of aerial. They did some trapeze and some hoop. And when we moved to a new location, we got our own studio in Salford Central. It was just underneath the arches of Salford Central train station.
Oh, right, yes.
So we used to be there. And so we now had an upstairs and a downstairs. We had 2 rooms now. Right. So that's when we changed it and we had aerial equipment.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, this looks fun. Let's give this a go. And then got into silks and got into everything else as well. And
silks that's the one where it's like material that's draped down.
Yes, 2 separate silk materials drop down. It's quite really tough, but yeah.
And you perform, and you can wrap yourself up in that and do various performances. So that's another way of doing. So aerial, I suppose, for people that don't know, traditionally there's trapeze artists. That's your classic aerial, but now. And especially Cirque du Soleil have probably thrown open the doors there.
Definitely.
And so they do lots of styles. So your aerial is, now I've seen you with like big hoops suspended on chains or ropes, and then you do a performance in and around the hoop. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And how does that come back? How did you get do you practice a lot? Obviously you practice a lot for that.
Yeah.
So, and you get your moves. Go on, tell me about that.
Definitely. So aerial, I think hoop has to be my one true love.
Right.
I do love trapeze and I love silks, and there's so many other little various things again in the aerial arts world. Hoop has to be my love.
Right.
There is something that it just feels like I'm flying when I'm in it. You're up in the air, you're spinning and just transitioning from one move to the other, and there is nothing like it. I mean, gliding on the ice is one thing, but this is a whole other thing.
This is another.
I've never feel so free in my life when I'm doing this. I'm up in the air. I feel like I could be a bird right now, just flying. It's beautiful.
And how high are you off the ground? So does it depend on the venue when you get there? And and there's no safety rope there.
No.
So how high are you up when you're doing this?
This does depend on location. To be honest, as long as I can reach my hoop, that's fine.
Okay, yeah.
I have had an issue before where I was performing at Menagerie,
right,
and I let someone else do the rigging for me, and they did it. They did it too high, and I got on. Luckily, the curtain wasn't open yet, but I literally could not reach the hoop. And I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to lower it down a little bit."
Oh no! That could have been that would have killed your own. Just basically when someone
just jumping up for it. It's like, this is me now.
But again, if you could hurt yourself if you slip, obviously you have to be careful.
Definitely. Throughout the years, I've definitely learnt how to move in hoop and what I trust more than anything. If there's something I'm not feeling particularly okay, and it's so easy to lose yourself when you're performing and you're dancing, but I am still very aware of what's moving, what's keeping me on. If something doesn't feel slightly right, I'll come out of it and do something else.
Sure.
A lot of my performances in aerial, especially, I'm not gonna lie, the majority of them are freestyle.
Right, okay. And freestyle meaning
I
just do various. Whatever.
There is no routine planned.
Okay.
It's literally, you go into something, you're like, I'm going to go into this move, and then I'm going to go into that move. I find if I have a way too structured routine, I freak out if that one move I just can't do that day. My hamstring's a bit tight, my splits aren't probably going to look too good in that move, or anxiety's a little bit too high today. Maybe let's not try that death move today. If I'm stuck in a routine, then I panic a little bit.
Right, okay.
And when I watch back on my videos, I'm never quite in the zone. I'm not lost in the music as much.
Yeah.
If I freestyle it and it's a song I know very, very well,
yeah.
you can see that I'm loving life. I'm away with the fairies. They're just proper lost and away in it.
And have you had any sort of moments like, say, what can you think of a worst gig that you've had, like a wardrobe malfunction or something's got stuck, or is there any time that you think, oh, I'm stuck here, this is not going very well?
There was one at Menagerie. So I used to perform above the table full of people.
Yeah.
I went on a little bit later and these group were clearly wasted.
Right.
And one of them had ordered like this, I don't know what you call it. It was like a little mini carousel filled with treats and stuff.
Right.
And shots. And one of them had a sparkler in it.
Right.
And they decided they were going to put it literally underneath me.
Oh no.
So I was like, quick, jump onto the top bar of the hoop. Like, la la la.
Great. That was good.
One of the waiters caught it and was like, let's just move this out of the way, shall we? Like, I didn't change anything. It was just like, whoop, go a little bit higher now.
Yeah. We don't want anything catching fire here.
No.
So it's like, yes, not.
I've been quite lucky.
Yeah.
I've not really had many problems. Although one of the malfunctions I've had recently was, I can laugh about it now.
Yeah. At the time, it's like, and I know because
Yeah.
it's happened to me. You look back on it, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that was a bit. But at the time, it's like,
Oh my god,
so what's
it's
happened?
daunting. Quite recently, it was at Albert Schloss.
Oh right, yeah.
And
that's that's like a cabaret bar
Yes.
restaurant, isn't it, in Manchester?
Yeah. So it was at Kuntz Cabaret that they do every Tuesday night, and it was really, really hot and sweaty, and I've never had a problem with nipple pasties before.
Right,
They've
okay.
always gone very well, but I had self-adhesive ones.
Right.
Never go for those, guys.
Okay.
Avoid them like the plague.
And these are the ones that cover up your nipples then to put stuff on
Yeah.
for your tassels and things like. Is that right?
So sometimes they have tassels already attached. They're just little sequin things that you just
Right.
cover yourself
Okay.
up for those.
Because a lot of burlesque performance will obviously cover up to then
Yeah.
adorn with various other things, whatever they want. Okay, so
Yeah.
so it's very hot. It's a sticky knife. Go on.
Self-adhesive ones, don't
Yeah.
go for those. Get urine tape or anything else. It was just very hot, and I had a little bit of a panic moment, and I'd taken all my things off a little bit too soon. I was like a chorus too early. And I was like, oh shoot, I've taken everything off a bit early. What do? Oh, I know, splits. Splits is a good thing to do. And then like put one foot out and I was like, how do I do splits again? Oh no, I've forgotten. Quickly got down in splits. I was fine. Didn't realise I'd pulled my toenail, and my toenail came off.
Oh no.
So I didn't feel
toenail?
it pulled back.
Ooh.
Yes. I
Wow.
didn't feel it at the time. It was just like, that didn't feel quite right. And then I was like, ta-da, in splits, la 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 la. And then one pasty fell off.
No.
And then the other. So I literally like scooped them up, covered myself up, got back up again. Luckily, I look back on the video, nobody saw anything. They better pay me extra for that. I did alright. I think I covered up alright. I just was a bit like, da-da-da.
It's amazing what you think when it goes wrong,
Oh,
what
gosh,
people
yeah.
are seeing, and then what actually people don't
Yeah,
realise.
exactly.
Because they'll probably think, well, that's all part of the act. And so, and I've had that
Yes.
a few times where you think, well, I've forgotten that line and I did that, and that's just, forget it. They'll probably,
Yeah.
But they actually, people just don't know.
No, not at all. And then at the end of the routine, I turned my back to the audience and one pasty just fell off again.
Oh, no.
At this point, I literally ripped off the other one and just threw it over my shoulder like, I'm done.
See, that's funny. Now there's an act there.
Exactly. Took charge of the situation.
Happy accidents. Oh right, okay.
Exactly.
So that's quite. And when I saw you, you did, and then one thing that I do love on your. On all the things you do and you say on Instagram is you're secretly a bunny.
I am secretly a bunny.
Now I love the way. Now just tell us about. And because when I saw you did an Alice in Wonderland burlesque, which is lovely because. A lot of the performers will come on almost sort of, it's always corsets or stuff like that, and I really liked the way that it was so different.
Yay.
And then you started from that. So now, and you're vegan as well.
I am
so,
vegan.
And now that's popular now, but you've been vegan for a while before it all got popular.
I've been vegan now for about 2.5 years.
Right, okay.
And then was vegetarian for quite a long time before that. I was kind of on and off for about 5 years
Sure.
vegetarian. I was quite a nervous person back then, and I hated being that person that was like that interference, like, I'm sorry guys, I'm vegetarian, I can't eat that, or someone would make me something and like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't eat that.
Yeah.
So it went back to eating meat every now and then, just to not be that a nuisance. And then it was like, no, there's a reason why I want to be vegetarian, so screw that, go back to be a vegetarian.
And because you do a very energetic sort of lifestyle performance.
Yes.
So and people, I think, assume meat is the food you need to give you that energy.
Oh,
but
not at all. I feel so stodgy and like, no, meat is not the way.
It's not the soup.
No.
So for you, what's a really good sort of energising food for anybody out there?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I have a lot of fruit and veg, I won't lie. I always feel so good afterwards having lots and lots of fruit and veg, but I have a lot of lentils, beans, chickpeas. There is so much protein and minerals that you need, and you find them all in your fruit and veg.
It's all there.
Yeah, and I feel good afterwards. Like, don't get me wrong, I have so much junk food as well. Oreos, chili heatwave Doritos. That's around the corner from me.
Yes, because I think everybody who do diets or has a particular diet, you have this one day where you allow yourself to go and have a bit of a not so great food. So where do you go? Where's your...
My go-to is Zad's, because I live in Chorlton. Zad's.
Okay.
It's basically a vegan junk food takeaway pizzeria that does burgers, pizzas that is like proper takeaway style. Lots and lots of vegan cheese. They do like this thing that's called Satan, which is really good meat substitute.
This is called Satan, is
Satan,
it?
yes. Hail Satan.
Fantastic. So and that's a meat
that
substitute.
Is really high in protein.
Right,
but to be fair, not that I need it. I get so much protein from everything else I eat. But yeah, this is quite a good one. But it tastes amazing.
And you like particularly carrots and hummus?
I do. This is why I got my name.
And this is a nickname, Bunny, that you were known for a long time. So and when you teach your burlesque, what do you call the people you're teaching? What's their nickname?
So my students are my bad bunnies.
They're the bad bunnies.
They are my bad bunnies, and quite often, like in my classes, sometimes they show up with my my burlesque bunny mask that I tend to wear in my performances. So some of them come in with them ready because they want to be my bad bunnies.
Oh, because now that's on Instagram. I think, and it's a wonderful picture. I think it's you backstage, and you've got this black mask on with these big bunny ears.
Yeah.
Very Donnie Darko.
Yes.
Which is a great film. So
it is.
And so I thought that looks brilliant. That's just an amazing look. So very striking.
I love it. Like, there's something about it that I've seen a few little things with different kinds of bunny masks, and something about it I love. Now, some of my students, when they come to my classes, they don't feel 100% confident. So by having a mask, sometimes it's that putting that persona on.
Sure.
It's hiding themselves a little bit, but they're being something else.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how sometimes just that tiny little thing can make people feel so much more confident, and giving them that safe place to really let the inner them out. And it's like, damn, that's what I was looking for. So little things that help, that's what I want to try and encourage people.
And because you're encouraging all the time and you're teaching, but how do you keep yourself and your act fresh when you're doing your burlesque or your aerial, so new moves? How do you keep that sort of, do you look at other stuff on YouTube, look at other acts and go, I could try that?
I attend a lot of other classes as well, like, as long as I usually send a message like, hey, I am an instructor and a performer, but would you mind if I had like a one-to-one with you?
Yeah.
I watch a lot of videos, but to be honest, my biggest one is probably just practicing myself.
Sure.
I'll put on music. I've got like my energetic playlist on, and just dance around.
Give us some of your tracks. What's your energetic tracks?
Oh, right. So, Wrong. That was one I did at Albert Schloss recently.
Okay. And that's a band, is it?
The song is called Wrong. The singer is Max something.
Okay.
Oh god, this is terrible. I've forgotten his name. But it's quite a fun,
people be able to
quite alternative song.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think which ones I got now. Depends on what I'm doing exactly. Like aerial, sometimes my go-to one is probably still Haunted by Beyonce.
Okay, right.
And Figure of Eight by Ellie Goulding.
Oh, right. Okay,
those two are probably my go-to ones. I love that one. And Burlesque, it'd be Wrong. What's some of my other ones? I've got loads of different ones that I tend to just keep going back to.
Keep going. And when would you say you had your ultimate performance? When do you think you've performed perhaps burlesque or whatever and gone, that was the show? Do you remember that one? Do you go, I got it right there, that everything was on point?
Ooh, there's quite a few actually, I'll have to say. But just due to like different reasons.
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes it depends on what the crowd is like as well. Like,
So you
that's had a
feed
big
off
difference.
the crowd's atmosphere a lot? Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'll just be in my little world. There could be two people, and I'll still be bashing out my best stuff. Menagerie was quite an interesting one to perform there because the crowd could really vary.
Yeah.
Sometimes you had a cracking crowd, and like you'd just bash out a simple ass move, and they'd be like, "Oh my god!" You'd be like, "Oh, thank you." And then other days, like you'd be pulling out all the hardcore stuff, and they were just a bit like. I think a lot of them were a bit awkward, and were like, "Do we clap? I don't know. Should we?"
Yeah.
We'll just have my camera out anyway.
Do you find that's a very British thing because it's with Ariel, it's almost like circus is there.
Yeah.
And it's what we don't normally see that, and so people find it. Oh, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to clap here, but I think people get it after a while.
Definitely, yeah. I think depends on the people, depends on the situation and the environment that they're in.
Sure.
Sometimes in places like when it's a showcase like Cherie's, like it's quite a cozy environment, and everybody is like sharing their little hearts out because it's such a supportive environment.
Yes.
Think things with like Menagerie, it's people that have just come in for a drink or some food with a friend, and the performance could sometimes be a little bit more backgroundy. It was just this amazing thing that was going on whilst they were there. And sometimes I think they felt a little bit awkward, like, oh, do we clap? Like, they would probably appreciate it and thought it was amazing. Like, I find myself on their stories or being posted up anyway, but I think they were just a little bit unsure on how to react into that situation. It wasn't that they didn't enjoy it, they were just a bit like, yay.
And it's that polite cricket crowd. So we'll just do a slight applause. So let's not show our emotion, but that's a typical.
Don't want to look like an idiot right now.
But so anyway, listen, thank you for today. And hey, we've covered so much, and there's so much you've done. I think but the one last question that I ask everybody that comes on the podcast is, who do you think I should interview for a future show for Funny Peculiar?
I've got two people in mind right now. Kat Loveday, my partner, she does loads of incredible work. I really, really recommend her. And my good friend Isabella.
Okay.
She does a lot of she's got a gorgeous singing voice, quite influenced by a few other kind of cabaret stuff. She's just a little bit. She's more singer and comedian as opposed to burlesque, but she ventures in a lot.
Brilliant. I'll check those out.
Yes.
Thank you very much again to Lilly Von Ice.
Yay,
and thank you again for coming on Funny Peculiar.
Yay, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks.
You've been listening to Funny Peculiar. Tune in next week. More great guests.
And a big thank you again to Lilly Von Ice for coming on the show. Again, if you want to track her down, it's at Alice_Ashurst, and that's on Twitter, and she's on Instagram, and you can get her on Facebook as well. So, a wonderful interview, and do check out that film, I, Tonya. It's absolutely brilliant. So, thanks to Lilly. Again, thank you to you for downloading, for listening, for sharing. I've got, as always, great guests coming up, and keep it funny peculiar.